Hello and welcome to this Vagrein channeling clip. Today's clip comes from yesterday's session, so it's brand new, and I will just read out what the questioner asked so that we can then hear what Vagrein has to say. But before I do that, I'd love to ask you to take the time to like and subscribe to this video. So the questioner asks, and I'm paraphrasing, before social media and digital forms of communication, it seemed like there were natural endings to certain relationships. At the end of a project or an experience or chapter in life, people naturally drifted apart, and if wanted to keep in touch, they would have to make an actual effort to do so. Now, it can be confusing to understand relationships when people can pop in and out of your experience, sometimes responding to you, sometimes not responding to you. It's a phenomenon that has become really commonplace. It's even got a name. It's called ghosting, and this participant is wanting to know about it and what can be done about it and how hurt feelings can be avoided when it comes to this new form of communication. Let's find out what Vagrein has to say about ghosting and being ghosted.
This is a evolution or a progression of your collective towards a desire for clarity in relationships. So the fogginess around this topic is encouraging you to learn how to create and establish clarity, because without this problem, it was very clear as to when something was, like you said, at its natural conclusion. And now perhaps there is that fogginess. In earlier times, the natural conclusion, or what seemed to be the natural conclusion, perhaps was not even a willing conclusion to relationships, in that people lost touch. That is not something that can happen in this now, or not something that normally happens in this now, at least in the parts of the world that are listening to our messages in this now. But what it is asking all these people who are taking things personally, and it is asking all those who do choose to interact in any way on a social, romantic, or relational level with another self, to take responsibility themselves for their relationships. In that, one does not need to be hearing from someone to be able to determine within themselves what they feel about that someone. And what is important in relationship is the learning of honoring one's own feelings, in that if it does not feel like one would like to continue a relationship, it is inappropriate to do so. And simultaneously, to honor the free will of all those with whom one interacts. Therefore, if one finds themselves on the receiving end of an impression of someone who does not seem to want to continue a relationship, at least on the level that one would prefer, then you are offered the opportunity to respect the free will of that other being. In other words, if you are not hearing from someone, it is because they do not want you to be hearing from them. If you are hearing from someone, it is because they want to be in contact with you. But this does not mean necessarily constant contact. This does not mean necessarily the way that you guys have established your ideas about relationships. This form of communication is forcing you to acknowledge the fact that everything that occurs can only occur in this now. When the being contacts you, it is a moment in which they want to, yes, for whatever reasons they may have. And some of those reasons may not be healthy ones, but they in that moment do want to contact you. And in all of the moments that they do not want to contact you, they will not. You likewise have that free will to contact them when you feel like contacting them, and not contacting them when you do not feel like contacting them. There are no rules in relation. The only one is, does this relationship feel good to me or does it not? And in the moment where you have perhaps a desire for non-sporadic communication, that is your responsibility to honor. In that, any being that does not communicate with you on a regular basis does not fulfill your desire for non-sporadic communication or constant communication. You can communicate this to them and say, hey, friend of mine, I would like a relationship in which our communication was less sporadic. that person then has the free will to say, well, I feel like I'll contact you at the exact amount of time that I should be contacting you for what feels right to me. At which case, both people have determined that their desires are not collaborating, in that they have different needs. At that moment, they may decide, well, this is perfect. We have discussed and we have decided that our needs are different. And in this discussion and this deciding, we have respected each other. And in this respecting of each other, it is no longer necessary for us to be in contact at all, because we are not mutually satisfying the needs or the desires of the other being. Therefore, our contract in this moment and now is no longer applicable or no longer necessary. In which case, they can both interact with people who have the same communication styles, the same communication timings as they do. We know that the issue is not how often people are being contacted or being in touch with one another, but it is the evolution to taking responsibility for one's desires, taking responsibility for one's needs, taking responsibility for one's relationships, and the evolution of communicating that clearly to another being. At which point, if that other being does not have in alignment views on the same topic, both are free to go their separate ways. There is no need to stay in a situation where your needs are not being met. There's no need to stay in a situation where your desires are not being met. So this suffering that you say that the people that are on the receiving end of this come and go type of relationship is entirely in their control or in their power to handle. Because the thing that they have to decide is whether or not that feels good to them, not whether or not the other person should or should not be doing what they are doing. If something does not feel good to you, yes, you may communicate it and see if there's a negotiation space with that other being. But the moment that there is not, it is no one's fault. No one is a victim of someone else's behavior. It is a victim of their own choosing to accept that behavior or choosing to try to live with it when they clearly do not want to. The hurt feelings are a choice. When you mature or when you evolve to a state of knowing that all of your choices are your own and you are not a victim of anyone else's choices or behaviors, you understand that when someone does leave your sphere, it is not because you are not good enough. It is not because you are not worthy. It is not because of any reason that has anything really to do with you, and it entirely has to do with them. And it does not make them a villain either. It just makes them someone who is in that moment, compatible with what you are or what you are serving or the people that would be in that moment compatible for you. There is no need to try to hold on to anyone because everyone who is meant for you in this now is already within your reach. The truth is whether you hold on to it with your emotions in that you decide to feel bad or you let the person go off and have their adventures, whatever they may be, and come back to you in the perfect timing, if that is in the cards for both of your life's path. There is no such thing as letting go of a special relationship. That person can live the entire rest of their life without communicating with you, and the joy and the blessings and the love that you have shared can never be dissolved, whether or not they are in proximity of you, whether or not they check in on your birthday, whether or not they send a like to a message that you have written. It is inconsequential. Your connections with these beings are not related to the interaction on a human level that you are having with them. They have given you gifts also, perhaps, by leaving your sphere of interaction. In that, without them, or with facing the feelings that you have without them, you are growing. Sometimes you will lose, quote, the love of your life. This can be through circumstance, it can be through death. And in that losing of, there's the opportunity of growth.
Thank you so much for watching this Vagrein clip. Here are a few more that you might enjoy, and please don't forget to subscribe by hitting my image right in the middle of the two clips. I'd love to see you again here soon for more Vagrein content, and feel free to visit me at www.jpherman.com. Have a wonderful day.